welcome to episode number 74 of Let's Make It. And we just keep increasing those numbers. Just blows me away. I got a lot of comments after last week's Yoon episode. And I have we're going to do some other projects coming up with that as well, because there's a couple of things that people have asked about. Could I do this? Could I do that? And I think it really is a great platform for a lot of things. So you're going to see more of that. But I do appreciate all the feedback from everybody that kind of watched it. Definitely always appreciate the feedback, whatever, email or in the Google Plus group or whatever. We definitely appreciate that. So this week's kind of a little bit of a mashup of things. I was kind of trying to catch up on a couple of things from the past. I didn't bring the beehive sensors in. I meant to do that today. I never went out and to the shed where I had the other extra ones and bring them in. So I won't be doing that tonight. Maybe we'll do that next week or the next show or whatever. But I do want to cover a couple of things, projects we've been working on, and kind of give you direction where we're going. We have some announcements also we want to talk about as far as some changes to the show. So, but first, let's take a look at something. And I'm going to just go to the overhead shot here real quick. All right, so what's this look like? Okay, go to the third. Looks like a button, right? Okay, so I mentioned before about building a button for my dog when she has to go outside. That's what this is. And let's see. I actually have a power cord here, but I didn't plug it in yet. So I'm going to go ahead and plug it in real quick. And let's see.
I have to go potty.
All right, so that's the first thing it does when you first plug it in. It does it one time, just so you know it's working. And as it sits here and it's waiting for the dog, or you'll see occasionally, I don't know if you'll see it on the camera or not, but it blinks. There it goes. It's not very bright on the camera. So it blinks real slow. And that was more of me thinking if she sees it, she'll know what she needs to hit. It doesn't work. So anyways, she comes up and she hits it like this. Oops, hit it again. There we go.
I have to go potty.
And it'll say, I have to go potty. And until we turn it off, you see it blinks a little faster. That's how we know what mode it's in. It will, every 10 seconds,
I have to go potty.
Say a phrase. Now, I had somebody record these phrases for me, and they recorded 7 or 8 of them. So you'll hear they keep changing slightly.
I have to go potty.
And it'll keep doing this until we turn it off. So, it works as designed. So I'll talk about some of the problems with it.
I have to go potty.
But let me go through some of the design here before I'm going to stop it. So to stop, we just hold it down for 5 seconds. And it's done. So I'm going to unplug it real quick. And we're going to go back to my shot here. As I pick it up and show it to you, it's a little easier this way. So this is a 3D printed box that I printed. And the button on top is basically a big button for games, for like video games. And then inside is an Arduino Uno and a Adafruit sound board. I can't think of the exact model of it. But, and then there's a speaker, and you can see right here I cut holes for the speaker. I didn't cut holes, actually I printed holes for the speaker. This is all 3D printed. And I designed all this in Inventor, Adobe Inventor, Autodesk Inventor, and it took a long time to print. And actually, I'm glad it worked the first time because it took a long time to print, and it's a lot of plastic too. But you see on the back, there's the Arduino, and you can kind of see the board at the top. What I misjudged was where you plug the wires into for the speaker, and I turned them around so they face inside, but they're still over the edge. So I didn't have that board when I drew it out. I only had the Arduino itself. So you see you had to make a slight modification in the back to get it to sit through there. But this is the dog button. And she does use it, but she has to be coached to use it still. She hasn't gotten to the point where she goes to it when she has to go. She'll still stare at us before. And then when she goes to the door, she'll hit the button. The problem we have is she's not accurate. And I don't know if it's the same with most dogs or not, but she'll put her paw on it and she'll put it all over the place. She doesn't really know what the trigger is. And she eventually hits it, because she just keeps pushing around on it. So what I've thought about doing is either, I may try this just to see first, just take a piece of cardboard or a thin piece of wood and lay it up this way, and she pushes on this, push the button down, and see if she's better at doing that. And if that works, maybe I find a different kind of button rather than this game button. And I can use the same box, maybe, put on like a limit sensor type of button, and to be just as good as using this button. I assume this button was big enough. You'd think it'd be big enough, but it's not. Her accuracy is still very, very bad when it comes to hitting it. Raising on a small stool, and it's helpful. It makes it a little bit better, but still not great. So that was the doggy door button. So, and the other product I've been working on, well, a couple of them, is the Beehive, which I have that working pretty decent. The one part that's not working good, and I think it's because I have a bad battery, is the solar part of it. It sometimes it says the solar charger says the battery is overcharged, over discharged, something like that. But yeah, it still has 12 volts on it. So I don't really know if it's this charge controller that's not working right or what. But the actual sensors themselves is working great. I've actually added some more things to the actual box. So because I was having problems monitoring remotely the battery level, I put another Arduino in there, a little Arduino Mini that has a voltage divider and tells me what the voltage of the battery is. So that's kind of how I'm monitoring it remotely, because it's still pretty far away, and it's getting cold out. And if the snow starts to come soon, it's going to be covered in snow. So I kind of like to keep an idea of how long it's going to last on the batteries and things like that. But I have 3D printed a piece of plastic that actually will hold the sensor inside the Hive in the frame. So I don't have all the sensors in there yet. But in the spring, when I get it out, I probably will take and cut a little bit of Hive out, or a little bit of foundation out with the wax and everything, and I will screw that piece of plastic up into that on the other boards. So I only got it in one right now, and it's working. As soon as it's working fine, and it's wrapped with it's called brass something. It's like a brass cloth, and the bees don't seem to bother it. Somebody mentioned that somewhere else, and I tried it, and so far so good. So we'll know in the spring, and especially if the bees make it through the winter. And then I'll do a better video on the whole thing. I'll bring it back up here and do a video on the whole piece put together. Okay, so here's some things that are going to be changing in the near future. We are going to move this show from Monday nights at 9 to Wednesday nights at 7. A couple of reasons. 9 seems to be a little bit too late for a lot of people, and 7's too early for me on a Monday. The other thing is I put it on a Monday thinking, I had the weekend to prepare. But that doesn't happen. So I would rather move it to Wednesday when I have a couple other shows, and I'm actually during the day Wednesday, typically around here. I'm here early and things like that. So it's better in the long run to move it to Wednesday. So we're going to move this show to Wednesday, starting next week, if we have a show next week. Now, here's the other thing. We have a lot of things that are going on kind of in the studio right now that is disruptive, and I'm not sure how many more shows I'm going to get in by the end of the year. So it could be that we start out in January again on Wednesday. I don't know yet. I'm going to try to do shows, but if the studio is torn apart, and we got to put it back together just to do a show and then put it back the way it was, then I'm probably going to skip them until this project is over with. But it shouldn't take. Well, it might take the end of the year. It could take the end of the year. So I don't want to do any promises there or anything like that. The other thing is we have a full-time sponsor now, starting in January, and we will be doing some demonstrations for them of products, because they provide electronic products, kind of like things we play with, and we'll be able to get stuff from them. They may ask us to review certain things. We'll do that on the air. So, and we'll have somewhere you can go and save some money when buying your parts as well, hopefully. So that all starts in January. The other thing is we're going to start doing a little bit more with pre-recorded segments, because some of the things that I'm working on, and a great example is, which I haven't started showing us, that's just what we're going to start on January. First thing we're going to do in January is quadcopters. We're going to do a couple weeks on not just quadcopters, hexacopters, anything electronic flying type of stuff. We're going to start in January. That's going to be the first show in January. And the thing is, when you build a quadcopter, it takes me a couple hours to go through things, or I modify a radio. Like I've modified my transmitter for the radio transmitter for the quadcopter, hexacopters, all that stuff. And it took me, a while to take it apart and put all the things in it. So rather than sit here and have you guys be bored while I do it for hours, I'm going to pre-record it. I can fast forward through it. I can pause it for certain parts and things like that. So we're going to start doing some more of that. Plus, we have some other segments we like to do. One of the things that I get that were most requested was basic electronic things. So we've always gone into the Arduino and showed you code and done real basic things, but we never really taught electronics. So I want to go through and I want to create a segment, one segment a week. It'll do a real short segment about basic electronics. So if people are just getting started in this, they might not know the basics of electronics. I don't want to assume that. And at this point, I have been assuming that. So we're going to start going through and doing some basic things like that, as far as, what's voltage, Ohm's law, real basic stuff. And then we're going to start building up so that if somebody's just getting into this, they can go back and watch the old episodes and learn going forward from these small segments. And then it'll be a few minutes, and each week will be a different subject, and we'll just throw them in there into the show as well. We also, I'm going to do a whole thing on some other maker type of things. 3D printing, for example. I 3D printed this. We do a lot of 3D printing now. We do three-dimensional design and laser cutting and CNC, and we're going to start covering that to some degree as well, because it's kind of a thing where you have a project. I made a box for a project. I could have bought a project box, but let me just say, to find a project box for the size of this button, you look at this thing. The reason this thing is so thick is because of that button. That button goes almost the whole way to the bottom down here. That's how tall it is in there. So it's one of those things where I couldn't find a project box. And I'm starting to make smaller enclosures for things as well. And we need to start just showing the whole process, I think, more than just, let's make it, not let's do Arduino. We're not going to ban Arduino by any means. I want to do more things spread out. Maybe the show gets a little longer. That's fine. And that's not a big deal. Sometimes our shows are only 15, 20 minutes. Maybe this show tonight, who knows? And other times they're an hour or a little bit over. So I don't mind going a little bit longer. Typically, we're shorter than an hour. If we add a 5 or 10 minute segment, that's no big deal. We'll go a little bit over just to get some more content in there. The other thing I like to do coming up is get more of your input and you on the show. You have a project you created, send me pictures, send me narratives. If you send me a video, if you're available, we can get you connected on Skype and we can get you on the air live with us as well. That's kind of what direction we like to go. This show is all about you. And if you're learning or creating stuff, I see things all the time in email. I'm working on this, I'm working on that. But, I never see when it's completed. I only ever get the questions. I never say, hey, my project's done. Here's what it is. And if it's okay to share it, let me know that too. I love to have that kind of stuff. I don't mind helping people, do it all the time. And that's part of the fun part of doing this show is helping people learn things and make things. But I see all that, all the questions come through and I need to do this, I need to do that. And I never see the results. I'd love to see the results. I'd love you to come show me the result on air, over Skype or whatever. So yeah, that's the kind of thing I like to do more of, is get more of you involved in this show. And that, again, that's all going to start in January. We're going to redo all this. And the show is, like I said, moving to Wednesdays at 7. And that could be as soon as next week. It all depends on the project. It could be January until we come back. But we will be back. And I have a lot of things pre-recorded already. I have multiple weeks of stuff teaching the math behind the motors and batteries of quadcopters and flying things. Then that goes to general electronics as well, but there is some math behind figuring out what size battery you need versus motors and all that kind of stuff. We're going to go through that, and we're going to go through building them. I'm not going to show you how to fly them necessarily, but all the electronics that goes behind it, including video downloads or video downstreams and all that kind of stuff. So there's all kinds of options we're going to show you. And then I'm going to hop into 3D printing for a few weeks, and we'll talk about the basics of 3D printing. I'll show you the printer that I have or that I've been using, the software I use to do it with. Maybe we'll talk about Inventor for a weekend or for a week and the other 3D tools that are out there, and just keep going down the making things. And in between there, I'm going to throw in electronics. The electronics part's never going to go away. As far as like Arduinos or other CPUs, I just want to add some more content, not just Arduinos or not just Raspberry Pis. I like to get more into the making part of things. And again, the part of that is the CPUs and stuff. So that's the direction that we're heading. And if I'm back here next week, I'm going to, what's next week? Oh, I got some Raspberry Pi stuff. I forgot all about that. That we're going to talk about. I have a case that came in. It's a really cool round case that I want to show you, and some other projects that I want to show you that I found on the internet people are doing. And I have some things I want to create with a Raspberry Pi. I saw one of the coolest things was an old-timey radio that didn't work anymore, that somebody got it and created a radio. It looks like an old-time radio. Kind of works like one, but it's web streaming. I like to maybe trying to create that. There is a couple of different platforms that do gaming, maybe it's heard of MAME on a PC. They have that on Raspberry Pi, plus other emulators now as well. And I'd like to get down and get that emulator working. And even if it's just at the point where it's the old Nintendo type of stuff, which you can get Nintendo controllers still that are USB and stuff like that. But I'd like to ultimately take and maybe build a full-size video game console, extended console. Like when I was a kid, roller skating rink, you went and played Pac-Man or Galaga or any of that stuff. Like, you can get all that now in the ROMs, but it isn't the same sitting down playing on the computer. It's like, just doesn't feel the same as whenever I was growing up. So I kind of like to get in, maybe actually build one of those. So that's the kind of things I like to kind of head down the road with, like that as well. And questions and suggestions for shows, please bring them on. The more, the better. This show is all about what you would like to see, and you provide us the details for or ideas, and we'll make it go forward. And that includes new CPUs. There's a new CPU out that I mentioned a couple weeks back that I'd like to spend a lot more time on, and from the point of view of an Android interface as well with it. So that was something else that'll be coming up. That's on my list. I have a list of things that I want to go through and do. There's plenty of content, but I prefer to do the content you'd like to see first. And then as I get holes, I'll put in my stuff in between there. So I think that's pretty much all I had this week. Again, next week, if we have a show, it'll start on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. And it'll stay there for as long as, for foreseeable future, because we have other shows on Wednesdays as well. And it's just easier to put all the shows together. I'm not as rushed on Wednesdays like I am on Monday nights. And I think it'll be a lot better when we put together a show, because I feel like I'm rushed right now tonight, because I get here and I got to get everything set up and just feel like I'm really, really rushed. But if something does happen that we don't have one next week, it will be probably beginning in January till my other project ends and the studio goes back to more like a studio for me. And it should be probably the second Wednesday in January. I think when's the first? I think it'll be the second Wednesday in January that we'll start back up. And we're going to start off with quadcopters that week. Hopefully we have all of our other electronic segments done, and we're working on all the details around our sponsor as well, and hopefully they're all on board that for the first show as well, and that should all be set up and ready to go. So we look forward to seeing you either next week or the second Wednesday in January. Be sure to tell your friends about us. That helps us a lot to be found. It's amazing. Word of mouth is the single best way we are being found. Even though we're on iTunes and all the other podcasting type of sites and apps and things like that, we're on Roku, which Roku is our second best way. We get so many views on Roku. It's amazing. That just keeps growing and growing. The subscribers on the Roku, definitely a good thing. YouTube is not doing so great for us. I mean, it's okay. And I like to maybe get that boost a little bit. So if you got some friends and you're watching on YouTube, do like us and spread us around a little bit. That does seem to be our weak point, but we'd love to grow that point. All right, everybody, have a great week, and we'll either see you next week or we'll see you next year. For show notes for this show, contacts, and more, go to the techzen.tv website, where you can get show notes for all of our shows. We love to hear from our viewers and listeners. We have an email, a Twitter, and a phone number where you can contact us for each show. For details, visit the techzen.tv website and get the show details. You can also make a video and upload it somewhere like YouTube or Vimeo, and then just send us a link. You never know, you may see your video in a future show. You can get all of our shows delivered automatically to your favorite device by going to your favorite podcast website like iTunes and subscribing. Each of our shows also has a YouTube channel you can subscribe to get regular updates. Our shows are also available on most internet radio networks like Stitcher and TuneIn Radio. You can also watch and listen to our shows on Xbox, TiVo, and Roku. You can even find us on your Zune.